Hey, it's Deepak, and I am back in Say No Uta, and we left off when Koji saw Fuminori. Yeah, Fuminori. At first, Koji assumes that he's headed to the lecture hall, but it soon appears that he's instead going home. Strange. Medical students have required courses in the afternoon. Though he is initially surprised, Koji's hesitation only lasts for a second. He follows his friend, taking care to stay far enough behind that he won't be noticed. Fuminori wasn't going home, as became obvious when he boarded a train headed in the opposite direction. Koji's next guess was that he was going to see his doctor at the T University Hospital, but Fuminori rode straight through the closest station. Where is he going? At first, Koji felt ashamed for tailing his friend like this, but his conscience fell silent as Fuminori's actions became more mysterious. The stranger it gets, the closer Koji feels to discovering the truth behind Fuminori's sudden transformation. Any knowledge would be welcome, no matter how slight. Even Koji is beginning to think that there must be more behind Fuminori's change than the accident alone. He wants a more satisfying answer, one that will help him decide whether Fuminori can still be trusted. Fuminori gets off at a small station in a nondescript suburb of Tokyo. Koji follows, trying not to lose sight of him and amid the other disembarking passengers. The area is quite desolate, only with only a small bookstore, a convenience store, and a market in front of the train station. It is easy for Koji to keep Fuminori in view. This neighborhood was carved out of the Fuji foothills, and here and there remain steep inclines and wooded areas that escaped assimilation. Koji is amazed that such a quiet place exists less than an hour out of central Tokyo. Fuminori seems to know these streets. He moves quickly and purposefully through the suburban community, his eyes fixed straight ahead. Before long, Fuminori reaches a house. Without ringing the bell or even knocking, he opens the door and vanishes inside, leaving Koji to wonder how Fuminori can treat this house as his own. After waiting to see if Fuminori comes back out, Koji approaches the gate and checks the nameplate. Ogai, it reads. Koji has never heard of anyone by that name among Fuminori's acquaintances. Next, his attention is drawn to the thick wad of leaflets sticking out of the mail slot. This, coupled with the general dilapidated feel of the place, suggests that it has been abandoned for some time. A small playground 2 blocks away provides an adequate vantage point from which to watch the front of the Ogai home. Fortunately, it does not appear to be the sort of house that has a rear exit. Koji settles down on a bench to begin his stakeout. I should have brought more smokes. 1 hour passes and then another, but there remains no sign of movement around the Ogai residence. Soon twilight settles upon the neighborhood. After Koji's 1 pack of cigarettes runs out, the stakeout becomes a battle against mounting impatience. He kills time by redialing Omi on his cell, and sending her short text messages, but his efforts are futile, as he knew they would be. When the sky begins to turn deep blue and the streetlights come on, Fuminori finally emerges from the house and heads back towards the station with the same hurried stride. After some brief consideration, Koji decides that right now investigating the house is more important than tailing Fuminori. He rings the doorbell just to make sure. After receiving the expected silence in response, he checks to make sure no one is watching and turns the doorknob. The door is not locked. The moment he enters the house, the stale air thick with mold and dust fills Koji's nostrils. It is the unmistakable smell of a house that has long lain untouched. There is also a faint hint of something else in the air, something reminiscent of damp sewers and fetid cisterns. Fetid. I don't know how to say that word. Flipping the light switch does nothing. The power must be cut off. Koji uses a cigarette lighter to illuminate the immediate area. In the thick dust covering the floor, he sees several brand new trails of footprints that could have only been made by shoes, Fuminori's. Koji decides to follow suit and dispense with courtesy. He enters with his shoes on. The light's flickering flame pushes back the deathly silence and gloom of the house. Koji is surprised to see evidence of life remaining. Everything from furniture to tableware and appliances. Nothing seems to be missing. The thickness of the dust suggests that the house had been empty for several months, which means that the owner must have left with little more than clothes on his back. Could he have gone on a long vacation? The calendar in the den is still turned to April. Empty and silent, yet still exhibiting signs of life that was once lived there. The house reminds Koji of a passenger ship entombed at the bottom of the sea. In the graveyard-like quiet, a sinister thought suddenly enters his mind. No one is living here, but that does not have to mean that the owner left. Maybe he was murdered and his rotting corpse is right under Koji's feet. He finds himself wanting a stronger light. A flashlight in his hand would make him feel much better. He follows Fuminori's footsteps to the second floor, where he begins to catch the scent of paper in the stale air. It is the smell of old books, instantly recognizable to anyone who has worked in an antique bookstore or library. The first room on the second floor turns out to be a study. Its towering shelves packed with such a vast number of books that Koji fears for the stability of the floor. As a medical student himself, he is able to discern at a glance that this study belongs to a medical professional, and a high-level one at that. Judging by the contents of the books, a smorgasbord of technical volumes, far beyond a simple student's understanding, the owner's interests lie more with medical research than with clinical practice. Fuminori must have spent most of his time here. The scattered dust suggests that he was searching for something, and the contents of the desk drawers are in obvious disarray. A small pile of books, stacked on the side of the table, catches his eye. Being next to the desk, they must have been the most frequently read. Their nature could shed some light on the character of the person who worked here. Koji frowns as he examines the three books. They aren't scientific tests like the rest, but old leather-bound Western tomes like the sort you would find in a rare bookstore. Their titles are meaningless to him. Trait de chiffre appears to concern semiotics, but Ars Magna et Ultima is some kind of treatise on divination. And then there's the Voynich manuscript, which looks like some sort of picture book. When he pages through it, he finds the text utterly incomprehensible. Maybe it's some kind of cipher. Whatever they clearly have nothing to do with medicine, refuting Koji's earlier guess that Ogai was a doctor. Looking down, Koji suddenly realizes the glint of something black and metallic underneath the chair. A pocket-sized flashlight, quite out of place among all these dusty books. Fuminori must have brought it in. With relief, Koji exchanges his lighter for the flashlight. His tiny body emits a powerful white beam that casts away the darkness. His courage restored, he decides to explore the rest of the house. Koji notices something strange, something that was not visible in the lighter's weak flame. The slime. Dark, oily stains are everywhere. The stains are especially thick around the doorknobs and stair banisters, like someone grasped them with hands wrapped in greasy cloth. Looking closer, he sees places where slime was splashed low on the walls, almost as if a wet mop was run violently across the floor. Could Ogai have made these marks? If so, how? Koji begins to feel sick as he imagines a man shambling through the house with slime dripping from his body. Finding the bedroom next to the study, Koji checks the closet on a hunch. He discovers 2 empty suitcases, not what one would leave behind when going on a long vacation. A sudden chill runs through him. Whoever was living here is still somewhere inside this house. Suppressing the urge to flee, Koji goes back downstairs to check the first floor. If he finds a corpse, he'll have to call the police right away. He might get away with trespassing if he reports it first, but if they find the body later, it'll be awfully hard to explain his fingerprints all over the house. The flashlight reveals the den to be covered in even more slime than the rest of the house. The sofa looks as though it was dredged from the bottom of a swamp. In the kitchen, Koji takes one look at the sink and decides not to get any closer. He doesn't want any more fuel for his imagination. He reaches for the door to the bathroom. A common scene from TV dramas flashes through his head. A body with slit wrists floating in a bathtub full of water. And wasn't there a movie where a hitman disposes of his victims in a bathtub filled with lye? Koji braces himself for the worst and opens the door slowly, then shines his light into the ceramic bathtub that appears from the darkness like a white ghost. Bones. So many bones. Bones black with dry flesh and blood. Koji puts one hand against the wall to steady himself as his legs threaten to buckle. Something is wrong. He realizes he's tried desperately to get his thoughts in order. The bones are too small and there are far too many of them. They aren't human. After taking several deep breaths to calm himself, Koji enters the bathroom and examines the tub. The bones are piled atop each other like fallen leaves. They appear to be from small animals, perhaps cats or dogs. Even so, the quantity is mind-boggling. How many bodies would it take to produce this many bones? The bones have all been separated from one another, so it doesn't look like the bodies were just thrown into the bathtub and left to rot. Each bone is covered with deep grooves, marks left by teeth biting through flesh. Koji's sanity won't let him consider the possibility that a human could have done this. The owner of this house must have kept some sort of carnivorous animal as a pet, giving it the bones of small animals to eat and disposing of the remains in a bathtub. But why not dispose of the leftovers properly? They could have just been thrown out with the garbage. Or was there something keeping him from leaving the house? The relief Koji felt when he realized that the bones weren't human is once again under attack. In the first place, what the hell was Fuminori doing here? Uh-oh. What's wrong, Koji? Koji whirls around, his light revealing Fuminori's expressionless face. You're trespassing. So are you, Koji replies, barely managing to speak over the pounding of his heart. Fuminori pushes past Koji and looks into the bathtub. He doesn't even flinch at the sight of the bones. A friend of mine lives here. I'm just running an errand. What? Who is this friend? When did you meet them? Koji doesn't want to believe that the old friendly Fuminori could have had contact with the denizens of this house. I'll introduce you one of these days, he says, turning to leave without even a glance at Koji. I owe her my life. Hey, Fuminori. Koji runs after Fuminori. His heart is finally beating normally again. Wait, is this friend of yours the reason you've been acting so strange? Standing inside the entrance, Fuminori glares coldly at Koji over his shoulder. The utter lack of emotion in his eyes gives Koji pause. You followed me, didn't you? Koji swallows. What can he say? You're starting to bother me, Koji. Don't do it again. Fine. Fuminori walks away without another word, leaving Koji alone in the entrance. Up until this very moment, concern for his friend was still at the forefront of his mind. Now, however, that concern is swiftly giving way to a growing sense of dread. Does the Fuminori he knew no longer exist? Was the person who just scared Koji down an imposter wearing Fuminori's skin? Koji has begun to believe that it might be so. What a nuisance. Why does he insist on interfering? If he only spoke with me to exchange pleasantries, even I could bear it, but now he's striking his nose into his business, my business, just to satisfy his curiosity. Koji is a perfect example of someone who thinks that it's always good to take an interest in other people's affairs. He probably thinks that he's doing me a favor by prying into my personal life. He couldn't be more wrong. If he keeps this up, I might have to find some way to deal with him. Like Saya said, I have to keep my search for Dr. Ogai a secret. Koji could ruin everything. I didn't have time to fully investigate the Ogai residence today. At this rate, it'll probably take several days just to go through the study. Saya didn't believe that I'd find anything to help with the search, but I think there's a lot to explore. Who knows what I'll discover? The problem is Koji. He knows about the house now. It will make things difficult. Excuse me, a hair-raising voice calls as I'm about to pass through my gate. Suppressing a shudder, I put on a fake smile and turn to face the writhing mass of rotten flesh that is staring at me with bulging eyes. Good evening. Are you just getting home? Yes, I am. Ah, of course. This is my next-door neighbor, Suzumi, a middle-aged painter, I think, who spends all day at home while his wife works. I haven't had much contact with him since the accident. Why is he suddenly talking to me now? Have you gotten used to living alone? Yes, thank you for your help. I know it must be very difficult, but you're still young. You have to try to move on with your life. Yeah. What is this? Did he stop me just to deliver a lecture? With such a big house, it must be hard to take care of everything by yourself. Yes, I suppose it is rather difficult. Why not hire a caretaker? Didn't your father have one? I'm still a student. I really can't afford that expense. I see. The flesh beats undulates foully, as though it has something to say. The sight of it is driving me close to the edge. Even so, don't you think you should at least tend to your yard? I'd be happy to help. No, thank you. I'll manage it on my own. Now I get it. He's worried that the unsightliness of my house might diminish the image of his own. Damned snob. I flash a token smile, then retreat behind the safety of my gate. I can feel Suzumi's eyes boring into my back all the way to the front door. Why won't everyone just stay out of my life? I just want to live together with Saya alone where no one will ever bother us. Who is that? Oh, it's Suzumi. Suzumi Yosuke sighs in annoyance as he watches the neighbor boy retreat into his house. What's with his attitude? Even when talking, he kept his eyes averted, as if to avoid looking at something repulsive. Has he always been such an unpleasant young man? No, of course not. When his parents were still alive, he had been a normal youth, a little shy but sensitive and caring. The unfamiliarity of living alone might be causing him undue stress. If this continues, he might start to develop some serious mental problems. Or is it too late already? Yosuke wonders as he gazes warily at the Sakisaka yard. Even during dinner, Yosuke can't shake the neighboring house from his mind. What's wrong, honey? You look like something's bothering you. Yeah, I saw the young man from next door today. Fuminori. I just had to say something about his yard. I know, I'd wish he'd at least do something about that smell. The stink coming from the Sakisaka house grows worse each day, and the Suzumi family is at its wit's end. Could there be a dead cat in his bushes? He must notice the smell coming from his own yard. He couldn't be leaving garbage out there, could he? Surely not. No, I wouldn't put it past him. Who knows what he's been doing there all day with the storm shutters closed? What kind of life is he leading? Did he go crazy? Now, Hiromi, you mustn't say things like that. Honestly, with the way things are going, I'm starting to wonder if he's gone paranoid or something. Will he be alright? Unless he gets help soon, who knows? Well, I feel like this is a good place to end it. And, yeah, that should definitely stink, the neighbors. If the neighbors complain, though, and someone gets involved, that's going to be a problem for Fuminori. But anyway, we'll see when that happens. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.